All right, so just a few weeks ago, I found myself on fragrancepie.ca, just kind of looking through fragrances to see what their new releases were to, try to find some fragrances to review for the channel. And so I came across the new Louis Vuitton inspired fragrances from Lucianno, and I went ahead and just picked up all 4 of them. So what I have here today is just my initial thoughts on these fragrances. This is not going to be a full review. This is just, again, going to be my initial thoughts on these fragrances. And I'll have a full review, later on at some point. So the first fragrance that I have here from Lucianno, this is going to be Lucianno's Spectacle. The next one is, and Spectacle, that is their interpretation of, or their inspired fragrance of Louis Vuitton's Stellar Times. The next one is Stardust. And this is their take or their inspired fragrance of City of Stars from Louis Vuitton. Next one is Melody. This is their inspiration of Louis Vuitton's Symphony. And the last one here is Cosmic Rock. Cosmic Rock is going to be their inspired fragrance of Louis Vuitton's Meteore. All right, so for the Melody, this one I still need to get another sample of Louis Vuitton's Symphony. I actually ran through my sample of this one. So at least in this video, I'll only be comparing this one to Alexandria's Orchestra. And then the City of Stars, this one I actually don't have a sample of just yet. I do actually have it coming in the mail. It should be here by tomorrow or so. So I'll definitely be doing a follow-up video with this one, just comparing it to the original. All right, so just to get started, we're gonna start off with Spectacle. So with Spectacle, this was very impressive just right off the opening spray. So when I sprayed this on, I didn't get any sort of, alcohol blast or anything like that whatsoever. Spectacle was extremely smooth, on the initial spray. Now I do have the fragrances sprayed on these strips here. And they've been on here for probably about the last 20 minutes or so. So this one is going to be Stellar Times. This one is Spectacle. And then this one is Lumiere L from French Avenue. All right. So when comparing the 3 fragrances, what I'll say is, again, at least in the opening, Spectacle is definitely as smooth as what Louis Vuitton's Stellar Times is, for sure. I got absolutely no sort of harshness or alcohol blast whatsoever, really from any of these fragrances, which is what really impressed me the most. Typically, especially with Louis Vuitton inspired fragrances, you do kind of get like a little bit of harshness in the opening because, obviously the materials being used aren't, necessarily the same as what Louis Vuitton is using. But this really did smell of the same sort of quality as what Stellar Times did. Now, what I'll say is in terms of, after that sort of initial spray, once you get past that, like the first couple of minutes or so, Lumiere L does seem to be a little bit stronger than what the Spectacle is. But I mean, really, I guess if I'm talking about accuracy of smell, the orange blossom note in Lumiere L, it seems to be stronger, but there's like this really sort of like, there's this sort of softness that, Stellar Times has. And it's kind of like, a mixture of citruses, orange blossom, amber, and then some woodiness. I think with Lumiere L, I'm getting a little bit more woodiness from this than what I'm getting from Stellar Times and from Spectacle. So Spectacle does actually seem a little bit more accurate in terms of the smell. So, I mean, you know, if I were to give, I think in terms of accuracy in previous videos, I've given Lumiere L like a 95% close or something like that to Stellar Times. To me, so far, it seems like the Spectacle is a good 97% close or so. Like I'm pretty impressed by this. I really am. Like I said, I do think that I'm getting a little bit more woodiness from the Lumiere L than what I'm getting from the Louis Vuitton or even from the Lucianno. And just overall, it seems like Spectacle from Lucianno, it seems to be a little bit more closer to, you know, the original smell. Now, in terms of the performance and stuff like that, you know, I'm not going to go over that in this video. But so far, I am extremely impressed by the way that Spectacle smells when compared to Stellar Times. Now, this is also an extrait de parfum, just like all of the other, you know, Louis Vuitton inspired Luciano fragrances. And to me, you can kind of tell, like, it does have that extra sort of concentrated smell that I felt like was, you know, lacking just a little bit in the Lumiere L. So yeah, man, so far extremely impressed by Spectacle so far. All right. Now for Stardust, this was a scent profile that I had never smelled before. So I hadn't smelled the original City of Stars before, whether it be an inspired fragrance of that or just the original. So this one was pretty new. For City of Stars, let me just pull up the notes here. This is definitely, it's a different type of fragrance. To me, this does kind of come off as like a very sort of feminine type of scent. Initially, when it opened up, I got like a lot of sort of kind of like tangy citruses and stuff like that. Right now, it is definitely on, you still get those tangy citruses like lime and stuff like that, but it is very kind of powdery, which I think is what is giving this like a more of like a feminine sort of feel to it. It is extremely powdery. Definitely smells really like clean at the same time, but it is, again, it's extremely powdery. Now for the notes on this one, top notes on Stardust are going to be lime, blood orange, mandarin orange, bergamot, and lemon. In the mid, you get tiara flower. And then in the base, you get powdery notes, musk, and sandalwood. So let me just go ahead and spray this on again here just to get refreshed with the opening. So yeah, when you first spray this on, it's like a blast of citruses. Definitely pretty lime heavy. Lime heavy, I would say the blood orange you get a lot of lemon and bergamot. The mandarin, you don't really get too much of that, but it is there for sure. And again, when you spray this on, and I mean, I can only just go off of what I'm getting so far from this fragrance so far, but I'm not getting any sort of harshness from this, especially with it having like that really sort of citrus dominant opening. I'm not getting any sort of harshness from this at all. It doesn't really smell like, you know, any sort of like lemon cleaner or anything like that. This does smell like extremely smooth, but just really bright and citrusy. Now, As the fragrance starts to dry down, it gets dominated for sure by that tiara flower and, those sort of, powdery notes. Yeah, the powdery notes are definitely, what gives this, in my opinion, more of sort of like a feminine type of feel to it. Now, to me, this comes off even more feminine than something like, California Dream. California Dream is very kind of, floral for sure, but it's not like super powdery and floral. This one is extremely powdery and floral. So that's what kind of gives me more of sort of like a feminine type of feel to it. I do like the way that this smells for sure, but I think I would rather, smell this on like a woman than me wearing it myself, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely something that I would probably gift, a woman. But I can't really necessarily see myself wearing this fragrance. All right. It does seem like it does have, pretty decent projection. Obviously, I have to wear all of these fragrances. I literally just got these fragrances today, so I haven't had a chance to actually wear any of these fragrances. Again, this is just my initial thoughts on them. But so far, I do really enjoy the way that this smells. It's just not a very masculine or even really completely unisex type of scent. It's definitely a feminine leaning type of scent for sure. That's very sort of floral with that tiara flower and really, really heavy on the powdery notes. So that one is Stardust. The next one is Melody, which is their inspired fragrance of Louis Vuitton Symphony. This one I was also very, very pleased with in terms of, how this one actually smelled. So let me pull this one up. And I'm actually going to just respray this. So the notes for Symphony are going to be grapefruit, bergamot, and ginger. And the main thing that, I kind of said when I did actually compare Orchestra to the original Symphony was that Orchestra was extremely close to Symphony, but it seemed like Symphony had a little bit more extra sort of brightness, a little bit more of a sparkly sort of opening to it. And I feel like that's actually what I'm getting from Melody, from Lucianno. This does seem to have the more brighter, more richer, more sort of sparkly opening to it, than what the Alexandria Orchestra has. In terms of strength, I mean, it seems like both of these fragrances, they seem to be about the same. I'm having a hard time really saying which one of these are actually stronger, but again, definitely from what I can tell, at least in the initial opening, Melody does seem to be brighter, a little bit more sparkly, a little bit more zingier. Whereas I feel like with the Alexandria Fragrances version, the Orchestra, maybe this one, I don't know, it just doesn't seem as sort of bright and sweet. And that's the other thing too. So what I did notice with Symphony when comparing it to Orchestra was Symphony did seem like just slightly sweeter than what Orchestra was. And that's the difference that I'm getting here with Melody when comparing it to Orchestra. there's like this slightly extra sweetness that you get from melody over orchestra. So again, right now I don't have a sample of symphony anymore. I'll have to get another one, and that's going to be pretty expensive. I know every time that I order any of the sort of extrait, fragrances from Louis Vuitton in terms of their samples, I normally end up spending like around $30 for them. So it may be a second before I get another sample of symphony, but what I'll say is for sure, melody seems to be the slightly better fragrance. I did notice that just in the opening between, melody and orchestra, melody just seemed to be a little bit smoother as well than what orchestra did. So again, the main thing that I'm noticing with all 40 fragrances from Lucianno is they do seem to be a little bit smoother than any other sort of, inspired fragrance that I have right now of these other Louis Vuitton fragrances. So again, I am pretty impressed. Definitely, I can't wait to wear this fragrance. I mean, this smells so good. I might even wear this one to Thanksgiving. I was thinking about probably wearing, a more sort of heavier, more like, wintertime appropriate scent, I guess you could say. But this smells so good, I may just wear it on Thanksgiving. The melody anyway from Lucianno. So really, really impressed with this one. For sure, I would say so far, it does smell a little bit better than the Alexandria. All right, so that is my take on melody. Now, Cosmic Rock, my expectations of this one weren't super high. I kind of felt like there's probably a reason why there hasn't really been a Louis Vuitton inspired fragrance of, Meteore. But this one actually surprised me a lot. So this was considerably better, in my opinion anyway, than what Le Meteor is from Alexandria. Now, I have these two dried down, or I have all of these dried down right now. And, all right, so it was better in the opening for sure than the Alexandria. The Alexandria was definitely harsher to me than what Cosmic Rock was. But once these have dried down, the Alexandria is actually better now and definitely closer to the original Meteore. So it seems like the citrus notes that you get from Meteore, they don't seem to smell as smooth and as rich as what the original Meteore does, and it just doesn't seem to have as good of a blend, both with the citruses and you could say also with the florals. So the notes in Meteore, those are going to be mandarin orange, Sicilian orange, and Calabrian bergamot. In the mid, you have pink pepper, Tunisian neroli, Indonesian nutmeg, Guatemalan cardamom, and then in the base you have Java vetiver oil. Now, yeah, I think the main thing that I'm noticing is the quality of the neroli is definitely lacking in Cosmic Rock for sure. It's definitely lacking on that. It's lacking on the nutmeg as well. The nutmeg, I would say, is where the Alexandria definitely, it smells about the same quality, as the Meteore does. But yeah, it's It's lacking on the neroli. The citruses in this smell a little bit more kind of like rindy. And that's carried over into kind of like, you know, the mid and the dry down of Cosmic Rock. And it does have more of sort of like a vetiver type of smell to it than what the Alexandria Fragrances version does. Yeah, the Le Meteor, now that the fragrances have dried down, Le Meteor is definitely much closer to Meteore. So far, I mean, it seems like, at least in the dry down anyway, this is probably about 80% or so Meteore. Whereas the Le Meteor from Alexandria, it seems to be more closer to like the 90+% closeness. But at least in the opening, what I'll say again is this definitely smelled better in the opening than what the Alexandria version did. Now, I've had this for almost a year now, maybe like 9 months or so. So, you know, this I'm sure has definitely, you know, fully maturated. Whereas with the Cosmic Rock, maybe this may change over time. I mean, one thing that I'll say about any other sort of Lucianno fragrances that I purchased is it doesn't really seem like maturation is really a thing with the Lucianno fragrances, because even fragrances that I've had from them that, you know, I've had for months, they don't really seem to change much in terms of smell or performance, at least for me anyway. So I kind of feel like how this smells right now is pretty much how you're going to get, or is what you're going to get, you know, months from now. But yeah, this just doesn't smell, Cosmic Rock, it doesn't smell as rich, as sort of well-rounded, and as good of a blend as, you know, what obviously Meteore is from Louis Vuitton, or even Le Meteor from Alexandria Fragrances. So this one I would say is definitely the weakest one out of, you know, all of these. But that is, I mean, this is still a very solid fragrance. Like I said, it's about 80% close. And this is considerably cheaper than what Le Meteor is. So, I mean, I believe just for this 30 ml of Le Meteor, this is going to be probably more than what this 100 ml bottle is from Lucianno, the Cosmic Rock. I want to say this one is about, I don't know, $46 or something like that for this 30 ml. I believe I probably paid like around, I don't know, maybe $39 or so for Cosmic Rock. Either 35 or 39, I can't remember. But it's going to be much cheaper than what the Alexandria version is. The Alexandria for 100 ml is going to run you about $120 or so. So there's a considerable price difference. But yeah, man, I mean, so far, this one seems to be the weakest one out of the 4 fragrances. So if I'm going to rate these fragrances in terms of like my favorite to least favorite, I would say my favorite one for sure is definitely Melody, their inspired fragrance of Louis Vuitton Symphony. This one I think is probably going to be good enough for me to replace the the orchestra. So this one was definitely number 1. Number 2, for sure, I would say is Spectacle. I'll have to see if this one gets any stronger or smells any different as it sort of maturates. But so far, it does seem to be the closest to Stellar Times that I've smelled. And then number 3, I guess I would kind of have to still go with number 3 as Cosmic Rock. This is still a fragrance that I would absolutely rock. It would really be a good gym fragrance, which, you know, for me anyway, I've worn La Meteor primarily to the gym. So I really love to, you know, smell this fragrance on me when I'm really hot, sweaty, and working out. So this one would probably fall into that same kind of category. And then Stardust, for me anyway, would be last, only because of how feminine it becomes, you know, once it starts to dry down. Like I said, it's very powdery and very sort of heavy on that, you know, that tiara flower. So this one would definitely be, you know, the one that I would for sure, you know, kind of gift to like a female friend or my mother or something like that. All right. So that's my take on these 4 fragrances from Lucianno. Definitely let me know in the comments if you all have smelled any or all of these new Louis Vuitton inspired fragrances from Lucianno. And if so, do you agree with my assessment of these fragrances? If not, definitely let me know in the comments. If you do, also let me know in the comments. Also, I'll have links in the description to where you can purchase these fragrances. And again, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And also, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see you on the next video.